Welcome back, friends, foodies, and fantastic people of the internet. We are here with an updated version of my Rocco Street Chef deck. I had made the video about a year ago, and since then some cool stuff has come out, and I try to keep the deck on themes. It's a fun food theme with a side theme of 1-1 counters, and it can be very political because you can also give the 1-1 counters to your opponents. But I also try to keep it as synergistic as possible with what the deck does, while trying to put as many Universes Beyond cards in the deck as possible. So without further ado, let's get it started with the man himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Rocco Street Chef. This guy's awesome because at the beginning end step, your end step, he allows you to exile, everyone exiles the top card of the library, and they may play that card, but they still have to follow timing rules up until your next end step, when the cards that weren't played get exiled, and regardless, you exile the next card off the top, and the process repeats. He rewards you for anybody, including yourself, playing a land or casting spells from exile. It doesn't have to be by his effect. If they were exiled by any other effect, or if they were casted by any other effect from exile, he still rewards you with the food, and he allows you to put a 1-1 counter on any creature on the battlefield. So it can get political, or you can be greedy and just give it to your own creatures. Next up, we have Ragos, Deaf Gastronaut. He is a new piece of the deck. I wanted to give him a try. I like the fact that he makes sure artifacts you control are food, so not any artifacts. So this deck can also make treasures. This deck can make clues, and he can make them food too, which fits on theme. You can also sack an artifact to gain 3 life. So instead of having to pay mana, sorry, I'm misreading. The bottom effect, sorry, you pay 1 mana, sack a food, and he deals 3 damage to each opponent. So he weaponizes your foods basically. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, untap him. He's pretty good. Very essential piece, Academy Manufacturer. This is the reason why I said that you can have more than just foods in the deck. He turns your foods into also clues and treasures, so he's a really essential piece to the deck, allowing you to ramp faster and have access to more draw power. Next, you have Boros Charm, very versatile card in the deck. I mean, this is like a take it or leave it. I love this card though, because the fact that it has 3 pips that you can choose from, and they can be, they're situational, but they can actually come in clutch depending on the situation, especially if your opponent has 4 or lesser life. You can deal 4 damage to them, or a Planeswalker, which is pretty good. It also makes your stuff indestructible. I've had people on several occasions try to board wipe artifacts and enchantments and stuff. This helps me because your artifacts, including your foods, are essential to helping you ramp in the deck. Or you can just finish someone off if you have a huge creature and you just give them double straight. Next, we have Reckless Fireweaver, really good in the deck since you're making so many foods. Like I said in the previous video, you can make upwards of 20. I've made even upwards of 100 foods in a game. Every 1 damage matters, I believe, especially when it's not super competitive, like EDH where CEDH where you're trying to win in like 1 turn. If you're trying to accumulate a win over like several turns, this guy makes a huge difference. Another new piece since I've made the last video is Chaos Emerald. I'm trying to speed up the deck, and depending on your hand, if you open up this in a Spirit Guide, you can actually get Rocco at turn 1, which is pretty awesome. And the fact that if you exile a land, you can pretty much start doing your thing right away. Get Lost, a very simple removal piece, but it gets rid of pesky planeswalkers, enchantments, or creatures. Map tokens, they can, but more often than not in EDH, it's not as relevant as in other formats. So this is actually a pretty good piece of removal in EDH in my opinion. Nuka-Cola Vending Machine, a real powerful combo piece in this deck. Very simple, just tap 1 mana and tap it, create a food token, and whenever you sack a food, create a tap treasure token. There are many ways other than their own effects that you can sack foods in this deck, and there are ways you can actually go infinite with this card, and so this card is an essential piece of the deck. Mox Opal, very simple. This deck makes a lot of foods, it makes a lot of clues, it makes a lot of treasures. This is just another quick mana piece. Heaven's Pilgrim, just another way to ramp for the decks. You can get a Rocco out essentially turn 2 more often than not, depending with the amount of ramp pieces you have in here, you can usually get them out on turn 2. Turn 1 is like what you really want, but turn 2 is okay too. Sentinel Sarah Lions, I hyped this card up so much in the last video, and that does not stop now. She is amazing. The fact that she has haste automatically, she is a little bit steep on the mana, but like I said, your artifacts in this deck help you ramp out so fast that you don't really even feel it sometimes. As long as an artifact enters the battlefield under your control this turn, which that's not a very difficult thing for this deck to do, especially since you're pumping out foods left and right. All your creatures during that turn get +2/+2 off the bat. Like, that's amazing, and it includes yourself too. So she becomes a 6/6. Her battalion ability is that when she attacks with herself and 2 other creatures at least, she deals damage equal to the number of artifacts you control the target player. Remember when I said you can make 20+, 100+ foods in this deck? You can pretty much one-shot someone, like I said in the previous video. And when you combine this with another card later on in the deck, you can actually one-shot 2 people. Dance with Calamity, I previously had said that this was like the ad nauseum of this deck. It's still, I feel it still kind of is, but the fact that instead of like losing life, you can just cast them for free as long as they're 13 or less. And like I said, the ceiling for this deck is like 5 mana, so it's pretty easy as long as you're just keeping track. I've been able to cast like 5 or 6 spells free with this thing. It is a steep cost, but the fact that you get 5 or 6 spells for the cost of 8 mana is amazing. And like I said, they're all being cast from exile, so it triggers Rocco. Another ramp piece, Inspiring Statuary. Non-artifact spells you cast have Improvise. Improvise just means that you can tap your artifacts to pay for 1 of the generic mana to cast them. Like I said, this thing turns your foods into mana essentially, which is amazing because it helps you ramp out a lot faster, and you can play your bigger spells a lot quicker and a lot sooner. So I think it's an essential part, especially if you're playing like a more fun of game. Like I said, this is a 3.5 in my opinion. Lion Tutor, not much to say. It's so good because it lets you find your combo pieces. New Call Vending Machine helps you find the statuary. Pretty much anything you're looking for that's an enchantment artifact, lets you put it on top, lets you draw it. Or if you anticipating with Rocco, you can exile it. That way you can cast a spell later on. Burn Resolve, just the fun of, but the fact that you get to exile the top 2 cards of your library, it's impulse draw, and you can to the end of your next turn you can play them. Very generic, helps out Rocco's ability, and I just thought it's a good filler card. War Doctor, I had mentioned him in the previous video. He is really good. Every time you exile cards off for like Cascade, Explore, or just Rocco's ability in general, or any other form of just exiling, just like Ren's Resolve, he triggers whenever 1 or more permanents phase out, or whenever 1 or more other cards are put into exile, you put a counter on him. So unfortunately, it doesn't count the cards that were exiled, like if they were doing Cascade, but at every instance of exile, he does count those. He gets a counter. Whenever he attacks, he deals damage equal to the number of time counters on him to any target. If a creature dealt damage his way would die, it exiles it. And it's pretty good. If he's on the board long enough, I've had some games stall out on me. He can get like 5, 10, 15, even 20 counters, and he can help you like wind down and finish off games pretty quickly, especially if you're targeting your opponents with him. So he's really good. Ryu, another fun of I had mentioned in previous video. He's not super synergistic, but the fact that you can give the 1/1 counters to him, and then his Hadouken allows you to deal damage to creatures and draw a card. Just kind of, he's basically another removal piece, and I like the fact that he's he's from Street Fighter's Universe Beyond card. I needed something to help take some creatures off the board, so he works. Another new piece since I made the video is Plankton, aka Skrelv. Big problem I have with this deck is that people love to remove Rocco, even though Rocco by himself is not really. I personally don't think he's crazy, but a lot of people, they're like, oh, I don't want to even have to deal with that ability, especially since Rocco can make your opponents a little salty. especially if they have a few cards that are higher seeding than yours. If they have anything higher than 5 CMC, especially early on in the game, Rocco can exile cards and they're like, oh, I can't cast that card. I was banking on using that card later on in the game. Rocco kind of can take pieces off the board early on that they were banking on winning with later on. So Skrelv, aka Plankton, he's really good at protecting Rocco or other key pieces of the deck that are creatures, you know? He just gives them hexproof. One of the newest members of the deck, the Cabbage Merchant, he is amazing. Whenever your opponent casts a non-creature spell, create a food. I mean, you're already making a lot of foods as it is. This just helps you create even more food. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, sacrifice a food. Not a big deal, you make so many foods. Tap 2 untapped foods you control to add 1 mana. He is one of the reasons why foods are so good in this deck, especially now with the updated list. He turns your food into mana, just like other cards in this deck. Very simple, but very powerful. So I would recommend you putting one of these in the deck as well. Annie joins up. She is the one I was mentioning with Sarah Leon's. Excuse me. I'm a little under the weather in making this video. When it comes in, it deals 5 damage to target creature, planeswalker, and opponent controls. Already good as removal, but we're using it mainly for that second ability. If a triggered ability of a legendary creature you control triggers, it triggers again. Anything with any legendaries, especially like Rocco or Sarah Leon's, where she can deal double damage now. Rocco lets you exile 2 cards off at the end of the turn of each opponent's deck, or he can let you put 2 1 counters every time someone plays the card from exile. And that's just those 2. There's like other cards in here that this card synergizes so well. So highly recommend this card. Very fun, especially if you're playing more casual. This is a really fun card to use. Tifa Lockhart, another new addition to the deck. It's a fun card. This deck is not really landfall tribal, but the fact that you can put Rocco's counters on her and she has trample, you can get her to like 10 power with the counters, which is not very hard to do. All you gotta do is play a fetch land. She goes to 20. When you fetch, get the land. She goes to 40. If someone's low enough life, and I don't talking about like 5. Like if they don't have enough to block her with that piercing damage, even if they're at 20 life, if they only have like 18 blockers and she has 40 power, this is still enough to knock them out. So this is the reason why I have her in here. You know, she fits the Universes Beyond theme, and the fact that she can be very powerful in the right situations. That's why I put her in here. She's really good. Soul Ring, just mana. Not much to say about it, but it's just really good. Wall Cantor, more mana ramp. I'm trying to get Rocco out as fast as possible, so the fact that you can just play on turn 1, turn 2, you sacrifice her, along with tapping 2 other lands, and you can get Rocco out. You know, very efficient. Bloodbraid Challenger, I had mentioned this one in the previous video, really good. It has Cascade, which helps you trigger Rocco. And the fact that you can recast it with Escape allows you to re-trigger Cascade, which is amazing. So the fact that you can use this multiple times in the game is one of the reasons why I love this card. Karametra, she's a fun card. I just like the fact that she lets you ramp. This is a very creature-heavy deck, so the fact that you can cast creatures and go search your library for any forest or plains, that includes tri-lands, that includes surveil lands, shock lands, dual lands. As long as they have the forest plains type, you can put them into play tapped, and that's why I like this card. Reckless Impulse, this is basically like Ren's Resolve. Same thing. It's just another filler card, but I love the fact that it's Impulse Draw that lets you trigger Rocco. So pretty simple, but still pretty effective. Uba Mask, I had recently mentioned this card in the previous video too. I love this card because one of the major problems you have with this deck is that when people exile the top card of their library, a lot of the times they won't want to give you that advantage. So they'll, like, especially if they exile a land, they'll play a land from their hand that they already have in their hand. This basically, like, over time shuts that off because it turns all draws into impulse draws. Every time from now on, as long as it's on the battlefield, every time they would draw, they exile the top card of the library instead. Now they, like, unlike Rocco, where they can only play the card till the end step. If a card is removed by this card, they can play it whenever. It's kind of a gamble sometimes because they'll try to remove this card, especially with like later on if they exile something that can get rid of it. But I think that the benefit of this card, it just heavily outweighs the back draw. And so the fact that eventually they run out of hand and then they're being forced to cast things from exile over and over and over again really helps with Rocco. So that's the reason why I love it, and I really recommend Uba Mask. Especially if you throw a wheel effect in the deck, you basically you can run out their hand right away, and then they exile a top 7 card, which is amazing. So they're at that point they're basically forced to start playing with the top card of the library. Oh, the exile. I mean, Knuckles is another new addition to this deck. Double Strike, Trample, and Haste can be quite powerful, especially if you're like throwing +1/+1 counters on him with Rocco. The fact that that Trample and Double Strike get out of hand. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token, which is pretty good too, because since he hits twice, and if that piercing damage or he goes uncontested by not being blocked, you can make 2 treasures off the bat. And if you have your Academy Manufacturer on the board, that's 6 artifacts with just 2 hits, which is amazing. The Treasure Hunter, though, actually is the main reason why I put him in the deck, because actually it is really relevant. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 30 or more artifacts, you win the game. Like I said before, and I cannot stress it enough, this deck can make upwards of 20, up to, I've even made, if you play the deck properly, over 100 foods in a game session. The fact that you just need 30, that's nothing, especially with all your multipliers in the deck. This is a win con right here. Source of Plowshare, removal, not much else to say, I just love the art. Possibility Storm, I love this card. It basically turns their cards in their hand against them, because they think they can get away by not playing the cards that you exile with Rocco. If this is on the battlefield, they try casting stuff off of their hand. It exiles and it does not resolve, and then they keep exiling off the top of the library until they exile a card that shares a card type with the card they casted. So if the card shares dual type, like it's Courser Crewfix, it keeps exiling off the top of the library until they either get an enchantment or a creature, or if they're lucky enough, another enchantment creature. But it casts that card for free. It's a May ability, so they don't have to. But most often than not, people can't resist a free spell, so they're gonna go for it, and it triggers Rocco, so that's another reason why I love this card. Peregrine Took, another one of your multipliers. If one or more tokens will be created under your control, those plus an additional food token is created instead. I love the fact that he helps just increase the speed at which you make your foods, and on top of that, if you're running low on cards and you really need that card draw, he allows you to get that card draw, because you're making so many foods sometimes. You can afford to get rid of like 18, 21 to draw a new hand. Elvish Spirit Guide, one of the ways you can get out Rocco turn 2 or turn 1 with the right hand. Just a really good mana ramp spell. Arcane Signet, just more mana ramp for Rocco. Wolverine, another fun of card. You can put all the 1/1 counters from Rocco's ability onto him. And if he deals damage to another creature, he also gets a 1/1 counter. And the fact that he double all damage that he would deal is just amazing, because if you can find a way to give him trample, with Rocco's ability, over time, he can one-shot an opponent. Excuse me. I ended up getting it, guys. From the last video, I told you I was looking for the dog version, Escape the Wilds. I love this art. This also is really fun for Rocco. It's another fun of card, but it sometimes can be very relevant, because it lets you exile top 5 cards of your library. So it's like a super impulse draw. You may play cards exiled this way until the end of your turn, and you play an additional land this turn. So this helps you trigger Rocco very fast and very efficiently, depending on when you use it. I also upgraded the Balin since the last video, I believe. I think I only had the regular one in the last video. I was able to get the I forgot the name of this art. I just call them the masterpieces essentially, but I love this one. I mean, enough said. He's basically like the cabbage merchant. He allows you to tap two tokens. In this case, any tokens. You can tap your treasures or your clues and add mana. You can tap 3 tokens to draw a card, or you can tap 4 to put 3/1 counters on him, and he gains trample within the turn. The fact that he can like one-shot with his own effect is amazing, but you can just also make him almost unstoppable with Rocco, and that's another reason why I love this card. Like, he has so much versatility. Simmons Spirit Guide, just like Elvis Spirit Guide, just another way to get Rocco out pretty quickly. I love this little monkey. Chrome Mox, just a fast way to get out Rocco. Turn 1, turn 2, just really fast and efficient. Talisman, just another mana rock, just helps you get out Rocco or any other spells later on in the game. A lot faster. Sometimes you can't always rely on your foods, even though they are one of the main ways you can ramp. Sometimes you're just not finding those pieces, so you still need that, traditional ramp. So that's what this is here for. Just like Balin and the Cabbage Man, this is one of the MVPs of the deck. This turns all your foods into token. They basically can tie for green mana. It's just amazing. You can super ramp with your foods, and this card also makes the food when it comes in. In addition, it has a somewhat style of Cradle of Behemoth effect. If you have a clear shot at an opponent, you can sacrifice this card by paying 7 mana, including the foods that you can tap the foods for it. And you can sacrifice this card, and all your creatures get +X or X number of foods you control. Granted, it's only as a sorcery, but I mean, sometimes that's all you need, man. You can get +20, +30, +30, all your creatures. You can pretty much finish the game if you have like the right setup with this card. Topia Sprawl is just another mana rock, well, mana dork in this way. It just helps you speed up the game, get Rocco out quicker, or play your spells quicker. Gleeful Arsonist, I had mentioned in the previous video. I know that it has Undying, and the Undying doesn't trigger, it has counters on it, but we're not here for that. We're here to put a bunch of counters on it with Rocco, and eventually, if you have enough counters on it, you can kind of soft lock your opponents out of the game from playing non-creature spells, because every time they play a non-creature spell, it burns them equal to her power, so it's a pretty good card in the deck. Appa, another one of the new cards of this deck. I've said it personally and to my friends, but airbending is cracked, especially in this deck. The fact that you can airbend any number of other target non-land permanents you control. Airbending means you exile the card and you may replay it for 2 mana. No matter how expensive it originally was, you can replay it for 2 mana. Is amazing. If Rocco is on the board and you can just start recasting yourself for 2 mana, and like I said, your foods can make you mana. You can just recast your board and just pump out even more foods. Just synergize with the deck. This also saves you from board wipes, which is amazing as well. So I highly recommend, if you're running a deck with anything that has to do with like foods or casting from exile, Appa is your guy. Birds of Paradise, just another mana ramp spell. There's not much to say, just helps you get things out quicker. Bloodbraid Elf, I don't think I had this one in the previous iteration, but just like the other Bloodbraid Berserker, the fact that it allows you to, it's 2 spells for 1 and one of them triggers Rocco with off the cascade. I just love this card, so that's the reason why I put her in here. Llanowar Elf, just another piece of ramp. I just love elves in general, and Rocco's an elf himself, so it's like a little side theme, but it also helps you boost the speed at which you play the deck. Soul Partition, I love this card because it has so much versatility. You can exile any non-land permanent, including your own, so you can save yourself from a destruction spell or a board wipe. You can save a non-land permanent, or you can exile your opponents. And a spell cast by an opponent this way costs 2 more, so it does tax them if they're trying to recast. But regardless, if Rocco's on the battlefield, whoever casts the spell, it rewards you because it's casting from exile. Katsul Malamet, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. It's because I'm Hispanic. This comes from Mexico. Mexican origins. Exemplar. The reason why I put this card in the deck is because he's like Grand Abolisher. Your opponents can't cast spells on your turn. The fact that he has an ability that just synergizes with Rocco's 1/1 counters is just a cherry on top. Whenever you deal 1 or more damage you control with a creature power greater than its base power, you draw a card. And so, I mean, if you have Knuckles, he deals twice, you draw twice. Just so good. Worldly Tutor, I want to say this is the last game changer. I think I only have 3, which is why I think I said this was a bracket 3 deck. 3.5 because it's how strong it is. It's a little bit more synergistic than the casual 3. But I don't play it to the deck's full potential. I'm just trying to have fun with the deck. I'm just trying to have some laughs, trying to show off what the deck can do. It's more of an exhibitionist deck. It's a very strong and highly powerful deck that is also an exhibitionist deck. And the Willy Tutor helps you go find any of your key creature pieces that you need to go off, like Cannon Manufacturer. Or if you want to set up for the next turn, at the end of the turn you can do it, and then it exiles with Rocco, so it lets you trigger Rocco, and then you still get your key piece. Sigarda, not much to say. I really like her. She gives your stuff protection. She gives your other stuff hexproof. And she lets you play angel or human spells off the top of your library. It doesn't happen very often, but sometimes it can be relevant. So, but I mainly use her here because she gives your other stuff hexproof. So I like that. Penlaza, it's not really a dinosaur theme, but this is essentially like a cascade. This is like the Blood Braid Elf essentially. The fact that it lets you explore just triggers Rocco, and that's what I like about it. And I mean, it's just a dino. It has pretty good art, and there's no really like looking into it. I just like the way it does, and I like the art, so that's why I put it in there. Peregrine Chook. This guy is actually one of the combo pieces in the deck. Not in an instant win combo piece, but the fact that every time you play a creature, a non-token while he's on the board, you make a food. With your multipliers, it gets out of hand pretty quickly, but at the same time, you can sack 3 foods and return any historic card from your graveyard to your hand. So you can return, like, you know, your artifacts, your legendaries, your sagas, anything you have in the graveyard that falls under those categories, he lets you return them back. So if you're a Cannon Manufacturer, more often than not, it's going to be a target. People love to get rid of that card because it is a combo enabler. He lets you get that back. So that's why I run him in the deck. Gilded Goose, just another mana ramp. I have so many mana ramps in this deck because, like I said, it's essential to get Rocco out as fast as possible. Because the longer and longer you take to get him out, the deck kind of like loses its power. But the faster you can start running the engines, the deck can get out of hand pretty quickly. So that's what I'm saying. I know it's redundant, but you want to get Rocco as fast as possible because that's how the deck revolves around him. And it doesn't hurt that it creates a food and you can use this as a mana rock, especially since this deck makes so many foods. Gilded Goose will pretty much never run out of ways to make mana. The Ozolith, aka Adamantium Bonding Tank, not much to say. You can just move the counters from that you give to creatures you control from Rocco. If they die or they get removed from the board, you can just put it on this card, and then at the beginning of your next combat step, you can just move them to another creature. Who knows? You can give it to your Knuckles, you can give it to your Tifa, you can give it to your Wolverine, and help finish out the game. And it's another fun of, like I said, this deck is not built as like optimally as you can build it. There are a lot of optimal cards in here, but not to the fullest, and that's because I wasn't trying to go for like win all the time. I was trying to go for like fun and show off. So like I said, it's an exhibition deck disguised as a highly powerful 3.5 bracket deck. Kirkland Ironworks, I just upgraded this one. I love this card. It basically lets you sack any artifact you control for 2 mana. That's all you need. That's all you need to know, honestly. While you have the new Call of Vending Machine out and you're sacking foods, and you have a Cannon Manufacturer out, it's basically infinite mana because you sack a food and it creates a treasure, a tap treasure. But since the Academy Manufacturer, sorry, my words are slurring. As long as Academy Manufacturer on the board, it replaces that effect. Instead of making the tap treasure, it makes an untapped treasure, clue, and food. And you can just repeat the process. You can just keep sacking the food for mana, making it an untapped food, treasure, and clue over and over and over. And if you want, you can just draw your deck, or you can use that mana to do something insane. Up to you, but that's why I love this card. Biotech Specialist, another new addition to this deck. I love this card. When it enters, you create a Lantern token, and if you don't know what a Lantern token is already, it's just a artifact token that lets you pay 2 mana and sacrifice it to go search for a basic land. Not super relevant in my deck per se, but I mean, who knows? I'm not putting the lands in this deck tech because I mean, you can run the lands however you want. But I've seen people play more basic land heavy decks, and so if that is your forte, he's a lot better in that regard. But I have mainly here for the second ability. When you sacrifice an artifact, this creature deals 2 damage to target opponent. If you have the aforementioned combo on the board with the Kirkland Ironworks, you can pretty much take everyone out because you're just sacking the foods over and over and over again, and because obviously it's an artifact, you can just ping people to death with this card, and that's the reason why I run him. He's one of the combo pieces, so yeah. Anywhere else, not much to say. I told you I love elves, but it's also really way to get Rocco really quick, so I love it. Same thing with the lighted halfling. I run quite a bit of mana ramp, and the fact that it makes him uncounterable is another relevant thing, because sometimes they just, if they can't stop him removal, they'll try to stop him with counter spells. So, but this makes it so you don't get countered, so I love it. Well, Wasteland. Sometimes this deck lacks in draw power, but this basically says, you know what? Forget that noise. Let's speed it up a little bit. So at the beginning of your upkeep, exile top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards, but you also skip your draw step. But I mean, in a deck that wants you to be casting or playing stuff off of exile, this card's amazing, because it's this deck's version of drawing 2, essentially. So instead of drawing 1, you're drawing 2, even though it says skip your draw step. So, and it doesn't skip all your draws, it just skips the draw steps. You can still draw off of the abilities of like the clues, or the like Peregrine took to let you draw off the food. So yeah. Another new addition, Lightsaw Inquisitor. It's not a super crazy card. I just like the fact that it enables Rocco, and when it enters the battlefield, each opponent has to exile a card from their hand, and they may play that card as long as it remains exiled, but it costs 1 more to cast if it's not a land. So they can exile a land, but if they haven't played it by the time Rocco gets out, it's just another way to enable Rocco. So it's just a filler card. Not very crazy, but I like the fact that it enables him. And Angel Wizard, I like that combination, so that's why it's in there. Orm's Chant. If your opponents are trying to go for like a crazy win, you can help stop this. Not much to say. Just that's just like a fog, or yeah, also if you use the kicker ability. But I usually to stop my opponents from being able to cast any more cards so they can't win. It's just an interruption piece, essentially. Last but certainly not least, I was able to finally get the full version of this boy from the last video. He's so good. And also another combo piece, also very relevant. The fact that you can, every time you cast something from exile, he deals 2 damage to each opponent, and you get 2 life. And he has the ability to discover force, so it's basically like pseudo cascade essentially as well. And so if you use it with that card that I mentioned towards the very beginning of the video, the one that acts like the ad nauseum. Like I said, I've been able to cast upwards of like 4 or 5 spells with it. You can deal like 8-10 damage just with him. Just with that one spell. So I mean, over time, he's not crazy, but like I said, if this is a more casual games you're going for, he is a very powerful piece. So do not count him out. He's really good. I recommend, if you have any form of impulse draws or casting from exile matters, and these guys go in your colors, especially if you're running the new Prince Zuko, I would run this card. Anyway, I have the lands here. I mean, I can put it in the deck list when I make the deck list, but like I said, it's up to you how you run your lands. So you get to decide how you want to make the mana base. But as far as the deck list, there goes Rocco Street Chef. This is Robert again. Peace out, fam.